This is the Bible Ranger, and we're continuing the series of the Bible being reliable, part 5, episode 77. So I have a whole library out there. Please look into it, okay, and share it with your friends. Now, this is proof through archaeology. So in a sense, the rocks are crying out. People, places, and things. Now, the Bible describes over 2,900 people. It describes hundreds of places. It describes countless of events. But through time and layers of sand, much of it gets hidden. So skeptics first question the information of the Bible to be true, and then they say it's not provable. Where are all these people? Where are all these places? Where are all these events? So in time, because Israel just became a nation in 1948 again, they start to build. And they're building settlements, and highways, and they start revealing hidden gems of history. They start uncovering it. So the first one we'll talk about is the Tower of Babel. In Genesis chapter 11, somewhere back then at 3000 or 3500 BC, and it was built by Nimrod. And we talk about that way in the early first 5 videos, I think it's in there. Anyway, this here is just a very small part of the actual Tower of Babel. And it probably looked something like this, like a ziggurat. I can't really say it right. It's kind of a places of worship. And here they found actual evidence of one, but this is Nimrod here, and he gets the credit for this one, and he had nothing to do with the Tower of Babel. This is secular people trying to help us, but in helping us, they confuse everything. Okay, there was other buildings like this, but the time period is way off. He was around, Nebuchadnezzar was around the year 600, 700 BC. So that's way off, a whole over 2,000 years. So let's not get that confused. Other proofs. There's something called the Tel Dan inscription. And basically is this rock here. And in there, in this little spot right here, it says something about the house of David. And obviously David was like the greatest king that Israel ever had. So they were, for years, they were like, where's the proof of David? You know, so they finally found one, and it had other names of kings. And it named all these kings, which most of them, if not all of them, are biblical kings. So it showed that. It showed the house of David, which means before all these kings, there was already a King David. So that was good proof right there. And then you have the tomb of David, which we actually saw when we went to Israel. And basically, this is the male section here. The tomb seems to go this way. And there is a division here. You see a divider? And that's the side of the women, and this is the side of the men. They don't want us together in there. And apparently it's a long tomb. But that was in Israel, and that was the bones of King David. So obviously he's a real person. More proofs. Number 4, Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, by the way, those are 2 different cities. They're always used together, so it's confusing sometimes. It makes it sound like one, but they're not. And in archaeology, they have found them. They're separate, but yet they're not too far apart. I don't know exactly how far apart they are. But watch how interesting this is. They have evidence all over the place of having sulfur balls and brimstone even in the walls, all over it, and the evidence of burning and burnt sulfur. It's no question what happened. The Bible describes it as a fire from heaven. Just like in Genesis 19, verse 24. Check out the story. Okay, another one is, number 5, the Pilate inscription. And Pilate was the governor of Rome in Jerusalem. He's the one that sentenced Jesus to death, but it was against his will. He subdued to the pressures of the Sanhedrins. And this tablet, this stone, whatever you call it, has nothing to do with Christian history. I mean, it was secular, but it just proves to show he's a real person at the time of Jesus. And right below that is number 6, is Caiaphas, which was the high priest at the time of Jesus, and his father-in-law was Annas. Annas was heavily influencing Caiaphas, most likely. It seems like when you do a little study, Annas put I think it was 5 other members of his family into the Pharisees. So he had a lot of pull, even though for some reason he wasn't active anymore. But Caiaphas broke several Messianic laws, Messianic meaning Moses, laws for the trial of Jesus. So even the trial of Jesus was corrupt. All right, number 7, James, the brother of Jesus. Now don't confuse him with other disciples, okay? Other disciples, there was, James the Lesser, James the Greater. Those are disciples of Jesus. James, the brother of Jesus, did not even believe in Jesus as the Messiah until after the resurrection. So they found this ossuary, I believe it's called, and I think it's right here, the inscription, which reads this. It says, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus. That's pretty cool. All right, now the next person is Herod the Great. That's the one who tried to kill all the babies up to age 2 to try to get to Jesus, because he had heard the wise men tell him that he was going to become the future king. Of course, he didn't want his sons to lose that privilege of being king, so he went to kill him. And even though he was a horrible man, he was a great builder. And he was the one that rebuilt the Jewish temple up here. See that? Beautiful. He built this, and I believe it had something to do with his tomb. I guess he was preparing. And down here is Masada. It's not the greatest picture, but I believe this little corner right there, this is like, it must be a remark, because when I went to Israel a couple of years ago, I didn't see this at all. I think I may have been right here in this corner looking down. It didn't look like this at all. And this is a picture of one of the palaces off of one of the rivers or the sea. And I saw it, but all I could see was columns like this and a little bit of a mosaic. You can't see any of this, but look how beautiful it must have looked. Awesome. So Herod the Great was a real person that was involved with Jesus one way or another. And there's actually way more of this, of archaeology, but I'll give you a little bit more when we get to Noah. We start talking about the flood, and there's more proofs of the flood. So I'm just giving you just enough to show you that there's way more. Some of the stuff is, you're not going to recognize it. Most people know what they are, but a lot of the stuff they found are like seals, like for rings, and a little inscription of a place named in the Bible, and they're kind of less known, so they're not going to be understood as much. So I just gave you a big one and some highlights over here. And if you can partner with me, I appreciate it if you spread this. We're losing a lot of kids to these college professors, and hopefully this will just whet their appetite. There's a lot of information out there, and we need not to lose our kids. Very important. All right, if you haven't figured out by now, the system is not on our side. Okay, we have academia. They're secular archaeology, because when they find something that's on our side, they try to twist it, like the example I gave you with the Tower of Babel, where they're saying Nebuchadnezzar was the one that built it, when they were like 2,000 years apart. They're always trying to twist something that we're saying, or they're asking us, where's the proof? And then eventually the proof comes out, and they'll say something like, well, that's your interpretation, or all religions are truth. What gives you the right that your religion's right, not anybody else's? And they're always playing these games, okay? They don't want to believe, no matter what proof we show them. Now let's dig a little bit into our lives. Do you have skeletons in your closet? Well, if not, for sure, we all have sin in our lives, right? However, Jesus is the cleanser of our soul. All we got to do is give him our life, give him control of our life by repenting, and make him Lord of our lives. If you're not a believer and you're looking at this with an open mind, just think about it. Obviously, you don't know everything. And nobody knows everything. So could God exist on the other part, on the other side of what you don't know? That's something the stakes are really high. I mean, it's heaven or hell. The stakes are high. So don't just say, I don't believe. At least you can say, I'm not sure, and then investigate it. But don't say, I don't believe, or God does not exist, because nobody can prove that. So I've tried to show you some proofs. Are the archaeological side, prophecy, and there might be a historical one. I'm not sure. But there's so much proof out there. But if you have to have an open heart. And if you're a believer, thank you for watching all the way through. And please share it. and subscribe. This is the Bible Ranger, keeping the Bible simple yet rich in content. Thank you.